Welcome back to Doc Diaries. In today's episode, I'm going to speak about my experience as being a parent in a doc program. So, few things that I'll be talking about just as a warning are um, an almost miscarriage, and then some anxiety, and then I'm going to share a poem that does have an expletive in it. So, if any of those things are triggering to you or would not be good for your mental health, then just know that you can finish a PhD as a parent. You can do it. It's just not the easiest thing in the world. But honestly, just like there was never a good time to have kids, there's never a good time to do a PhD program either. Like there will always be some kind of obstacle or reason that you can say, I shouldn't do this right now. So if you need to leave, I totally understand. Do what's best for your mental health. In April, it is National Poetry Month, and I have participated in Verse Love, which is a month-long celebration and writing invitations from Ethical ELA, a wonderful community of educators and writers join together, give each other feedback. And today's poem was about elegies, and it had certain phrases to use in a poem. I'm going to share my poem because it really is what guided me towards going ahead and making this video. So it's called Today I Will. Today I will write a poem about soon being finished with grad school. It will not be about what comes next. It will not be about my dissertation topic, but rather the comfort I have found in listening and reviewing feedback from wise and gentle counsel, but rather the joy in giving myself permission to make a B, in the clarity of not seeking perfection, but rather the best I could in a moment, the best I could when pregnant, when sitting in the NICU, when saying, Mommy has homework, when saying, fuck it, and playing instead, when waking up at 4 a.m. made more sense than saying no to my kids. So, to break down some of the things that I shared in this poem and how it relates to being a parent in a doc program. Over the last 3 years, I have had quite the journey. My very first semester of my doc program, I was pregnant with my daughter. I had to take progesterone because I was at risk of losing her. I had actually found out in the spring that she was going to be okay on the same day that I was supposed to walk for my master's graduation. And that was a really hard day. But then as soon as I found out, like, I was like, okay, now I can enjoy the fact that I'm about to graduate with my master's. And up until then, like, I wasn't sure I was even going to walk if I had lost her. So it was a really hard pregnancy. In November of that first semester, I actually went into labor on a Saturday while I was in class. So sometimes there's, at least in my university, there's Saturday classes that are like a morning session, a lunch break, and then afternoon session, and you meet less, but it's a way to help people who have the traditional work week. So I do think that universities try to help out people who are working full time. So I had messaged my professor and was like, I'm going into labor, I have to leave. And then my daughter was 4 weeks early, so she had to spend 13 days in the NICU, which were so difficult. But every professor I had was more than happy to give me an incomplete, which is a way of saying, like, they did everything that they needed to do up until X point when something in life happened that is preventing them from successfully finishing this course right now. However, had they been in the class still and this event hadn't happened, they most likely would have passed. So to give you some time to work on it, I did end up finishing it before the end of that year. So like classes ended the second week of December. And then I finished before Christmas break was over, but I was really grateful for that time. And when I asked if I could have incompletes from those professors, they didn't question it. They were just like, absolutely, like this is a big deal. Like you just had a baby early and she's in the NICU. So, after that happened, I had three kids. So now I have three kids. I'm in a doc program. I was a graduate assistant. So that is one way that you can navigate paying for a PhD program is to use an assistantship where you teach a class or you do research, or maybe you teach two classes, or there's different things that you can do, and then they give you a tuition waiver, and then you make an income during the school year. So I was really fortunate that I got to do that, and I taught two classes that semester, and it was so fun because realized that I really enjoyed teaching pre-service teachers, and I didn't have that experience before. So I had had a student teacher, but it's not the same as having 20 future educators in your classroom. Like that is a magical feeling. And they were all so sweet whenever I had my daughter. But I did that for 2 years, and then I needed something a little that the hours were flexible, which is great, but it also meant that sometimes my husband would need to work because he was a personal trainer at the time, and all the changes were just too difficult. So I went back to the classroom, and then my husband got a dream job at um in another state, and so we ended up moving, but I was still able to finish my PhD program because of where I was at. So the way that I navigated all of that was I gave myself permission to make a B. That is something my advisor told me, that sometimes you just have to accept that the best you can do is a B, and it is okay. A lot of times people who go to this level are perfectionists. I am a perfectionist. I hate failing. I am the product of what I like to call AP culture, so advanced placement culture, where you are in AP English in high school and you are so used to just this, where you're getting patted on the head and told that you're an amazing writer and that, your paper is brilliant, that you lose sight of like, maybe I should grow in X area, or maybe I need to reevaluate this theory, or maybe I need to look at literary analysis a different way. So it's okay that I made a B in a statistics class. I do not think any future university is going to judge me because I didn't have a 4.0 in a doctorate program. So give yourself permission to make a B is my first thing. Um, the next is whenever you have children, it does make a doc program harder because saying I can't play with you right now because I have homework is really hard. And I could see the disappointment on my children's faces. So eventually I decided I'm not going to do this. And I had a conversation with my advisor, and she said that she used to wake up at 4 a.m. And that way she could work and then be mom, and then she'd work whenever her kids were asleep. And that was probably one of the best pieces of advice I had gotten. So what I ended up doing is whenever I was a graduate assistant, my kids would be at school, my daughter would be in daycare, and I would work during the day, and so that I could stuff everything into what their school day was, or their daycare day for my daughter. And so that whenever they came home, I could cook dinner, I could be there, I could play Minecraft with my sons, I could play with blocks with my daughter, and then, we made it out the other side. Another thing I did whenever I went back to the classroom and I didn't have that flexibility during the day is my children could go to school at 7:30. So I didn't go to work until 8:30 is when my contract time started. I would drop them off early so that they could go to breakfast, and then that hour every single day, Monday through Friday, I would go to my classroom and I would work for an hour on whatever homework assignment I had. And then I would do the same thing at the end of the day. I would stay and work after my contract hours ended for a little while. And sometimes my husband would pick up the kids, and then I'd meet him back and just take another hour. So these little pockets of time are what really helped me get my coursework done. There are also little things to save time that help, like using audiobooks. I know a lot of times we would read novels in some of my classes, and I would always look and see if there was an audiobook of any text that I needed. And I would listen to it when I was driving my kids to school, whenever I was going to go do grocery pickup, because that's another thing. Like, I tried to think of anything that I could do to save time. So, grocery pickup, like Prime Pantry, Thrive Market, all of those things that the delivery services, I leaned into those because at the end of the day, I had to ask myself, what is my time worth and what can I afford to do? So with like grocery pickup, I was going to spend that money anyways. So if I can make what would normally be like an hour grocery trip with all three of my kids into a 20-minute car drive, then that just gave me 40 more minutes that I could spend with my kids or study. So that's another thing that I would do to help navigate this process. I think it's really important to model how to have a work-life balance for children, because a lot of times I think society pushes us to go, 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 and like go above and beyond in everything that you do. Stay later at work, pick up the extra time. And I had to say no to a lot of things. So I said no to a lot of friends when they wanted to spend time because I was already going to class twice a week. And if I was going to spend time away from class, then it was going to be with my family. I didn't want to take the time that I could spend with my kids and give it to other things. So I didn't have as many hobbies over the last 3 years because I wanted to focus on my children. All of that being said, it is more than possible to work full time and complete a PhD program successfully. It is really helpful if you are in a position where you can do an assistantship. Having a newborn was actually the easier part because when they're newborns, like, yeah, they might not sleep, but I would honestly sit there and breastfeed and then read while in the middle of the night. And it worked for me. I think that it's intimidating and it's scary, but a lot of things that are worth it in the end are intimidating and scary. So give yourself permission to have it be in class. Do the best you can do. Give your time to your children. Find the little pockets of time where, maybe you can squeeze in some studying. Find audiobooks when they're available. Find a study buddy who you can bounce ideas off of, because I spent an hour with a friend every single Saturday and we would talk out problems or misunderstandings we had. And just those little sessions helped me so much that I ended up spending less time on my homework for those classes, because after having that transaction with a peer, I had a deeper understanding. My questions were answered, or I would go to office hours and be like, what is this? And so those things really do help you. It is a personal choice, but I don't want anyone to think that you can't do it just because you have kids. It's just not easy. And I wanted to be really honest about that. So thank you for joining me today in this short video. I really appreciate it. As a reminder, all the opinions in this video are my own, do not reflect my university or anyone else other than me. So thank you, and I'll see you next time on Doc Diaries. Bye-bye.